And when I've been in these journeys, as well as different masterminds that I've been surrounded by people that are very, very wealthy, accomplished, and unbelievably hurt, and have raw pain and a lot of suffering. People that are friends of mine that are even up through billionaires. Hurt, sad. And they don't tell that story, and they suffer alone. And then what's really tough is the more you kind of rise through the ranks of wealth or accomplishment, the more alone you feel, because the more people that want to use you, take from you. You know, if you have employees underneath you, you can't be best friends necessarily. Like it has to be an employer relationship. There has to be some kind of separation. And so you just feel isolated. And it's why, like, I don't, envy the Elon Musks or whoever of the world. Do you know how many times he's been used and burned and manipulated? That's tough. It's tough. And so I've learned that vulnerability is just a big part of who I am and how I can make impact. And I feel like I've come strongly to terms with connecting with my feminine as well as my masculine side. I really feel like the idea, like it's been overused and weaponized, but the idea of like toxic masculinity is a masculinity that has no idea how to be in touch with femininity. That's the concept. If we were to, bring some reality or light to it. But if you can be in touch with the power of the feminine, the yin and yang, it's going to bring out your true strength as the fucking lion, as the masculine, the powerful masculine, the king.
We were trained differently, though. I grew up in East County, La Mesa, played football. The big scorecard was like, how many girls did you sleep with? Like, that was my upbringing.
Yeah.
And it's no knock on my parents. They did the best they could, right? Especially with what they were given.
Right.
But the challenge was I had to unlearn so many things that I thought were true. I mean, we were chatting about this before we hit the red button. The way boys are circumcised, how birth is done in the hospital, forced cesareans, toxic food, EMFs, over supplementation, low quality ingredients, believing things about fitness and health from being a trainer for 10 years that I thought were true. I mean, God, dude, the stuff I've had to like puke out in ceremony and in life could fill a football field. There's a lot there. So I'm wondering for you, like, and again, I love how we're starting this, right? Because I know we're going to get into science because like that's part of your forte, but I just really want to appreciate the way that you've started this conversation because it is truly everything. Like, why are we even taking the supplements and eating the food and doing the cold plunges? Why does this stuff even matter if we're not a good, loving human being to start with? The more cold plunges and red light therapy you do won't make you less of an asshole unless you've done the journey to self to find out why the things you're projecting onto others is your ego hiding from its own pain. And that's really the conversation, isn't it? Like, yes, biohacking and supplementation, super important. Actually, very important. Can change lives, changed yours. But there had to have been like one belief. I'm going to go back in the time machine if that's cool. There had to have been one thing that you learned from a parent, from society, from someone that really cast a shadow on your psyche that made it 10 times harder for you to know yourself. Can you go back in your memory bank and think about, did that wound actually help you become the greatest formulator in the world?
1,000%.
So it's such a paradox, right?
A total paradox.
You never would have been who you are, yet the wounding is where you serve from.
Totally. I mean, one, that's where your empathy is built, right? Like you can, if you know the suffering, you're going to feel for others that have suffered similarly. And two, if I didn't gaslight and abuse myself, shame myself, I wouldn't have accomplished all the things I've accomplished. There's no way. And I don't even have the energy for that like I used to. Like when I literally was doing 7 days a week, 100 hours a week of work, I never shut it off. I was getting 4 hours of sleep a night for decades. And there was nothing else. And again, like, do you think I was bringing much energy to my marriage? No. Why? Because I was so insecure that I needed to accomplish, because that's where I'd get love. But what did I always learn? There was people that wanted to manipulate me, use me, and that love was always fleeting. And then I'd gaslight myself more, even when I was accomplishing something, even when I got some award that I've been seeking, money, whatever it was. Well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you get to that next level, the next level, the next level, the next level, the next level? It never fucking ends. There's always more levels. There's always more, and you'll never get the love that you're seeking until you give it to yourself. And you have to realize that all the awards and fame and acknowledgement and likes and followers, that can all be fleeting. And then what are you left with? If that's what you built your whole world on, what are you left with when that's gone? If you're not whole in yourself, you will be destroyed. And for me, when I look at, yes, all of that built me to who I am, to the world's greatest formulator, to all of the accomplishments, the awards, the academia, the long hours outworking every other person I knew. Yes, and I became incredible at my field. And yes, there was empathy and passion, and all of those things were there too. But once I started doing the inner work, inner play, the deeper ceremony kind of aspects, like, that's when I started, like, doing, as you said, like, unlearning the pieces that no longer served me. This is where you say, thank you, Sean 1.0.
Yeah.
Thank you for getting me here. Thank you so much. But that type of thinking no longer serves me. And this is what most of the leaders that we have in place now need to acknowledge and say, yes, I'm hurt. This got me here. But I can put this aside now.
The fuel source becomes unsustainable, essentially. Like,
Absolutely.
you can mash the gas pedal down for a while, but then at some point the tires pop, the transmission breaks.
That's what was happening to me. I had all these autoimmune conditions, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, Hashimoto's. I had a brain tumor.
Like, all at once?
Yeah.
How old were you?
30. Like, this is all between 27 to 35. Like, I had all kinds of conditions. I had 2 discs replaced in my neck. Like, my whole body was breaking down.
Yeah.
And right before I started doing this work, going into the ceremonies, I was ready to commit suicide, either intentionally or hoping that it would happen indirectly, because I was sick all the time. Like, I was going to die. I was using Lunesta or Ambien, Xanax at night, and I was stimulating with, ephedrine and caffeine and T-crene, dynamine, all my ingredients, and I was using all these things to try and make it through the day. I had all kinds of pain. My body was shutting down. I was trying to power through it. I'm gaslighting my health, myself, and taking these benzos, and I would have this horrible sleep where I was apneic, not breathing for a minute or more. Literally, I had a test that showed that several times through the night, I would go a minute without breathing. And then I'd gag. Like, literally, someone's got their hands around my neck 100 times during a night. You think that that's restful sleep, that your psyche is going to be okay with that, oh, it's time to go to sleep, where we're going to feel like we're being attacked. and we're dying and we're being tortured. And then I would wake up with blood in my mouth, with a uvula the size of my throat, because I was coughing and gagging and snorting through the night so bad. And that was obviously, as you're saying, not sustainable. And even more embarrassing is when you're someone that's known to be in the health field.
Right. This is rampant. So with respect, I'll ask, because I know it's a tender life that we all live, especially the stuff that we're still healing from. What was it connected to? What was the thing that you either weren't willing to see or you were unconsciously incompetent to see about childhood, adolescence, teenage years? Like, I think this is really helpful for me and for all of us on the journey, right? Was there one imprint that really stunted your growth, that arrested your development, that then led to all these health complications? Or was it like an amalgamation of a bunch of them? Was it one or was it many?
There was no self-love, like none, zero. And
because it wasn't modeled, or because of something
it wasn't
you were
modeled,
told?
it wasn't there during my childhood. I was always told to be tougher, to don't cry, like, all those kinds of things. And it was very difficult growing up. My brothers ran away or got thrown out. And then because of that, I overate. I was bullied at school, even by teachers. And I never felt safe. And then I was the one that was bullying myself all the time as a result. Gaslighting myself. Like, why aren't you tougher? Why aren't you doing more? Like, you're terrible, And it goes back to that idea that if anyone talked to you like you talked to you, you wouldn't be their friend, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was the worst one talking to myself. And I just always believed that love was fleeting, love was conditional. And so I was always seeking it, but always knowing that it could be gone any second, even if I get it. And so I was never at peace. I had zero peace. It was the first time, like, when I did a journey, one of the things that shocked me is, like, I yawned the first time I did a journey. I was like, I couldn't even remember the last time I yawned. Like, just relaxed, like, that wasn't in my DNA.
So the hypervigilance was deep.
Oh my God. That was where I was, that very low vibration all the time. It's like, who's going to hurt me? How can I keep accomplishing? Yeah. Like, that's where I was.
Dude, this is so powerful because I don't think it's gender specific, although I do think it slants toward a father wound for me and for most men that are high achievers. I remember I interviewed this guy named Doug Brackman, and he wrote a book on entrepreneurs and why people are so driven. And he basically compounded what you and I are discussing, which is the fuel source for many entrepreneurs is, I'm going to show the world, I'm going to show dad, I'm going to show, the revenge is the best success, this kind of bullshit phrase that we hear. But it's just not sustainable because love is the only sustainable thing. And it's so easy for me to say that on a podcast when I'm sitting here and we're exchanging love, right? When I'm doing something that I love. But I've had moments like that too, where I didn't even know what love was. I didn't know why my mom was sick. I was angry at God. My dad was gone. It was just like hell. And then fast forward, I'm still at 44, still unwinding and unpacking these aspects of hypervigilance where I think that someone's going to screw me over or somebody's going to take money or somebody's going to do something bad to me. I think really the takeaway that I'm getting from you is like, when do we decide that the fuel source is unsustainable? That's the big question, right? Yeah, it could be your body breaking down. It could be your soul finally screaming at you so loud that you're like, okay, I'm listening. I remember I was in a journey once and I was throwing up and shitting at the same time. And I just screamed out, I'm listening. With like vomit coming down my mouth.
That's awesome.
I can laugh at it now. At the time, it was super insane and severe. So I'm curious, like, if you were to be able to go back, and not that you should or would, but if you were to go back, if somebody's on a similar bent where they're already setting themselves up to prove themselves, what do you think you actually needed back then? Was it just like a hug from your mom? Was it like your dad saying, I love you? That there's got to be something there, because this is the emotional intelligence that us as men resist talking about. And this is why this conversation is so important, man. It's so important.
I mean, I think I needed the exact journey that I was on in terms of my life, like where I needed, as they always say, like you need to hit rock bottom. You need to be like on the edge. I've never seen anyone evolve or make massive change without doing some kind of entheogen, without like maybe like having some life-threatening disease. Like it needs to be like, otherwise your constructs are so powerful, you cannot overcome them. There needs to be like, I'm at the point where I'm going to die or I'm going to change. Well, something's going to happen that's radical. You need to be at that point. As long as there's the safety net, as long as there's that you feel like I can keep going, I can keep having cognitive dissonance, I can keep lying to myself, and I'm okay, then you won't change. The constructs, the ego, it's too powerful. It's only when like the whole matrix gets thrown out and you're just standing there looking at the zeros and ones and you're saying like, damn, I got to do something. Something's got to change because this whole thing feels broken around me. And there's no one to blame but you. You can say, oh, you know, yes, I can talk about father wounds and all these people that bullied me and hurt me, but like, I'm an adult. There's no one to blame but myself. I am creating the world that's around me. And even when I say like, oh, all these people have hurt me and whatever, that's a vibration I'm putting out. If I believe I will be hurt, I'm going to be hurt. If I like have like this vibration of I'm empathic, but someone might do me dirty later, that's going to be the people that keep coming in until you learn that lesson, until you can heal from that, until you can vibrate at a higher level of love. Because just being nice is not the same as being kind with high gratitude.
Yes, this kindness for self that I think is maybe the most challenging thing. The monster in the head that barks orders that you talked about.
Yeah.
This monster can really help us create some pretty epic things, by the way. Like, look what you've created, man.
100%.
I mean, the amount of lives you've impacted from that fuel source can't be denied.
100%.
And paradoxically, you being in the health field, it crushed your health. I mean, I'm not laughing. I am laughing because like paradoxes can be funny, right?
Oh, it's super funny.
But the vibrational aspect you're talking about is so profound because, you know, on the screen right now is the Hawkins ladder, right? And so at the bottom of the Hawkins ladder, there's shame, there's apathy, and there's guilt. And actually above that, when you get to anger, anger is more powerful than despair. When you're angry, you're actually ready to do something about it. And then you walk up the ladder to acceptance and the power to change and love and then being of service to others. But I find it so crazy that the holistic lens of this healing path is just never really addressed. People just send their kids or their young adult to talk therapy or put them on pharmacologicals. And it's like this Band-Aid approach. And look, we've all heard about it before, but are you really taking the time? Are we taking the time to go 30,000 feet in the sky and look at, well, what in my life didn't make sense that I was trying to make sense of? And how was that actually harming me along the way? And how can I create a holistic healing lens that'll actually make a difference? I just find it so fascinating that many of us, you and I included, had to get to this place from being so broken in certain ways that actually can be the story we share with other people who are on the journey of healing their brokenness as well. It's the crazy paradox that we've already explored.
Yeah, the broken thing has been fascinating for me to kind of like work on and think about. Like for a while, I thought, you know, I'm beautifully broken. Like these flaws, these lessons that we need to learn are what drives us, what helps us become better.
That's
right?
What we end up sharing with others.
But I also had in some of my deeper work, my inner play, if you will, in some of these ceremonies, come up that maybe I'm not broken at all. Maybe the reason that we need to do these ceremonies or masterminds or, you know, connect with each other, do prayer, is that we're this beautiful Lamborghini, this beautiful machine built by God. And yes, we get some dirt and grime built up on it. And it just needs to be cleaned off sometimes. And we need to be reminded about how perfect we are. Maybe it's not that we're broken. Maybe we're just perfect. And we just need these lessons every now and then to be reminded of this incredible work of art that we are.
If you like that clip, click the one that's on the screen now, and I promise you, you'll enjoy it just the same, if not more.